ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the OCE Paladins Pro League as we get into Game 2 of Aftermind versus Australian Mafia. Well, Game 1 was a bit of a stomp. Aftermind took it in dominant fashion. Of course, my name is TJ, and my co-host, I Hold Shift, has just returned from creating his own cologne brand. It's called Patriotic Fury.
How did you know it's supposed to be copyrighted information?
I'm sorry. We are, of course, a few seconds away from game time here on the screen. Nothing's really changed, and that's worried me. Of course, Mr. Shy did pick up that Cassie, and thank God for that. I think we are in for a show on that front. But do you think it's going to be enough?
I mean, it might make a little bit of a difference. You might see 5 or 6 eliminations instead of 3. But regardless, we're going to see the Fernando sitting here having the old Mexican standoff on the blood coming out for Alston again on Ying. The mirror matchups is something that, you know, is makes the game so interesting. And we played draft mode all day today as we get a pause coming out right now with the North American and EU as yesterday, you know, having the draft picks. It's very different watching the mirror matchups come back into play, and I think it allows at least these, you know, newer teams or the younger scenes, respectively, at least to the NAEU scene, get a chance to actually show what their strengths are. So I guess we'll take a look to see if that actually impacts Mr. Shy's gameplay at all as he's playing his favorite Cassie pick.
Of course, we are into a pause right now, so hopefully that will resolve itself in time. I assume there's just a technical difficulty on one of the teams. We don't have that information just yet. But of course, as we're getting into it, it's worth talking about the burn cards. And it's kind of interesting to me. The only offensive burn card in the whole game is the Wrecker on Alliston. And looking at that lineup, you have a Fernando and you have a Fernando and a Makoa. You'd think you'd get more.
Yeah, you absolutely would. I mean, the Haven pickups, I get it because Cassie and Androxus and, you know, hidden scan champions like Victor as well. But at the same point, how are you planning on getting through 2 dominating shields? I mean, I'm just a little confused. I guess the confidence is just really high right now for Australian Mafia, or rather, sorry, pardon me, for Aftermind, and are looking just to put on the survivability in these one-on-one engagements that we're seeing, and they're just going to avoid the tanks, which is fine if that works. But you know, that's an advantage right now for Australian Mafia, is the fact that these shields are going to survive at least for this first or second round. So we'll see if they're able to utilize those properly. As Josh Kent on the back, and he's able to get a double, looking for the third on the Fernando. The shield will save him at least temporarily from the pistol revolver of Josh Kent's Andrew, but Joel's from behind. The assault rifle will plug him up, and this is going to be the push right away uphill. I mean, we're 2 minutes in, and the payload is already moving uncontested.
Yep, you know, you cool down. I have too many shields. There's no way they break past it. Well, the shields haven't even come to play. They're not playing the objective over on Australian Mafia, and that's just allowing Aftermind to walk it all the way through. Finally, we do see a bit of a shield out of Bullet. He's going ahead. He's finally standing in the way, standing strong, but not for long, as he's just melted by the focus fire of 3 players. There's a hope from Arachnomoose in the backlines, trying to focus down the healer, the Ying, but that won't happen either. And now Arachnomoose is kind of in exactly the same place. They just lost their Fernando, and I hate to say it, but I think we're going to see precisely the same result.
I think so as well. And, you know, when we're talking about the Fernando, I want to point out something in his loadout. He's using Dire Need 4, which grants allies within 30 units a 50 damage shield when you activate your own shield. So you would think with that pickup, he would communicate with his team, hey, we need to make sure we're grouping up so I can give you guys this extra shield, especially since there's so much investment into his loadout with it. And there's nobody ever around him, hardly ever. I mean, you would anticipate that Ying would be a little bit more aggressive, being able to get back up there and trying to help him out a little bit as far as being able to control point and objective time, but he's running into 3v1s almost every single time with very little support from his team right now.
Yep, of course the scoreline is 3-0 after the first capture point and conversion were completed with very little opposition on the part of Australian Mafia. We're on board Josh Kent going into the fight, and already you can see a bit of different play. There's a focus by Australian Mafia, and I think that's what they need to do. They need to nail down the point and win it while they can. Mr. Shy here in the backlines is drawing the attention of 2 of the damage dealers. That's got to be in reaction to the star plays we saw from him, but it doesn't matter. He's going to get a kill regardless. Now diving on in, doing a bit of chip damage. Meanwhile, Yes123 did grab Chronix. Alliston grabs Yes123 in instant retaliation, but Hades is the tank on the point, and he's very low on HP. Joel's is losing a battle to Mr. Shy, who's jiggle peeking, whose movement is just on point.
Yeah, and on the backside of the fight, Arcane Moose playing the Makoa for Australian Mafia was able to get a pull on Elson playing Ying, and the Ying popped her ult, and the Illusionary Rift was able to pull out enough healing to where actually the Ying won that one-on-one engagement. There was no support for their Australian Mafia for their tanks, and now they're in a position where the tanks are the last two really alive, and no one's able to sit on this point. So a big missed opportunity there when they had both tanks alive against a 5-on-3. They weren't able to burst down and complete the rest of the kills for a wipe, and now it's going to be a second point and a third overall score point for Aftermind. Relatively uncontested again, even though they were down for a second in those engagements mid-round.
And what I'm really liking about Hades is how aggressively he's playing right here. He's already diving in. As a Fernando, he's clearing so much space and he's got so many opponents just trapped in, all eating the AoE flamethrower damage as he now retreats. Everyone's half HP. Nobody can peek out to contest. It's just great tank play.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And if you would have left another couple fireballs in there, that would have absolutely shredded through Australian Mafia. But fortunately, if Ying did have her ultimate up for the side of Australian Mafia, able to get some of that health back. But again, they're all just clustered up in here, and Josh Ket's having a field day and shooting fish in a barrel in there. And here comes Hades again with the support of Chronix. And this is the support you need if you're looking for a flank move with your tanks. Everybody has to be at least somewhat focused in what you're trying to do. And Hades is able to get off incredible amount of damage. And of course, his presence alone is a lot to be dealt with, especially when he's got the support of his damage dealers right there. And now it's going to be a spawn push right into the platform of the opponent. Barrage is countering each other. Joel's able to get the better of VS 1, 2, 3, and Hades able to pick off the opposite Ying. And now the payload will stall briefly as both the Fernando and Makoa for Australian Mafia will commit their forces together to try to do some kind of a stall. The Immortal does come out, but Josh Ket able to sit in the back line and keep all the damage dealers away and will barely escape with his life. And again, you can see Ying able to heal him up already to full HP. And this is going to be another easy push here as it finishes this last nail in the coffin that is Australian Mafia.
There's the ultimate for Arachnemoose, frantically looking for something, but he's going to go down. Josh getting absolutely demolishing. Bullet, though, he's the last. And the Immortal from Hades will counter any ultimates that come in the next few seconds. And indeed, that will be the payload all the way through in the 4-0 scoreline in Game 2 for, unfortunately, Team Aftermind.
Yeah, and again, Australian Mafia just has a lot of work to do on the technical side as a team, I think. Individually, skill, obviously, there's some issue as far as what they're able to do as individual characters, but the biggest gaping hole there was how are they playing this game as 5 players? How are they going to play this game as a team? Because right now it seems very unfocused and very scattered.
Well, hopefully, as we get on with this league, of course, since it is a league format, they're going to play every week. They're going to get better every week. And this week, they drew a tough opponent. Aftermind, they have yet to lose a map. Nobody wants to play them, least of all the mixed team that scraped in off the back of some incredible individual play. I have confidence that over the next few weeks, we will see Australian Mafia get better. And frankly, with some of the star power they have on their team, they're a team to watch. Briefly glancing at the scoreboard before we get into this next game, is there anything absolutely fascinating here?
I mean, the thing that we can compare was, you know, the Australian Mafia Ying versus the Aftermind Ying. Inferno Turtle and Elston had relatively similar stats as far as the healing goes. The damage category, though, 20,000 more damage coming up for Elston. We had made the comment that Elston was the only person who was running record, which seemed very strange to us at the time and still does if we're really going back and looking at it with 2020 hindsight. But the big thing here, again, is just how many eliminations are shared between the team for Aftermind. Only a total of 1 solo kill for just 3 individual players. That just shows you, again, how often this team is participating in kills. And 22 total eliminations, they're all right there within 3 kills of each other of making sure that everybody is participating and getting involved in the killings. That's what you can really take a look at as far as how well Aftermind are playing this game as a 5-man front. They're doing it well, and they're getting involved in kills. They're able to communicate, obviously. I would have to assume their comms are very well structured as far as what their strategies are trying to be, and they're going to be tough to beat as we move forward.
Yeah, and briefly as we throw back over to our beautiful faces, mostly his face is beautiful, but we won't get into that. It's the tie. It just frames your face perfectly.
You know, it does that.
I can't keep a straight face. One of the
You're
things to
fine.
newer
We can't
viewers
tell
for
anyways 'cause
the
your microphone's there.
yeah, you're right. One of the things because the OC scene, a lot of people are new to it. They don't even the people that are in the OC region might not have seen too many games.
Sure.
Aftermind is kind of what Match Point was to NA at the beginning of this season, where they were just dominating. They were legitimately untouchable. And that's what Aftermind are right now. So hopefully they will go ahead and make the necessary changes on the other team. They'll study Aftermind, they see what they're doing right. They'll study the top teams in the other regions and sort that out too. And eventually, by the end of the league, hopefully, they will have serious competition.
Right, and you also have to keep in mind, a Monkish will eventually be thrown into the system when there is draft picking available inside the game, and that functionality brings itself to the esports scene. Reducing hero pools where you don't see some combination of 5 of the same 7 characters really does change the game a lot, and that's going to be something that Aftermind's going to have to adjust to, including the fact that we're going to be seeing a new character being added into the scene. It's going to add a lot of different kind of gameplay than we've seen so far. So, I mean, there are plenty of opportunities here for every team to make adjustments and grow very quickly, depending on how in stride they can take these functional changes that Hi-Rez are throwing out.
Yep, of course, we will be back with the next match of the night. That will be Tension Esports versus Avantgarde. They're two very exciting teams, and hopefully they'll live up to the hype as we return with that matchup, and of course the final matchup after that in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere, because I think this next match will be a blockbuster.